My name is Ethan Miller, and when I turned 25, my parents handed me a check for $100,000. My share of the inheritance my grandfather left behind. They didn't say it with pride or trust. They said it like they were handing me a disaster waiting to happen. "Try not to waste it," my father muttered, sliding the envelope across the table. My mother smiled tightly. "Maybe don't invest it in any of your crazy ideas this time." Their words hit hard, but I smiled anyway. Ever since I was a kid, I'd been obsessed with the stock market. I wasn't into flashy things or quick money. I just loved patterns, numbers, and the logic behind growth. But my parents never took it seriously. To them, investing wasn't a career, it was gambling in a suit. So, when I told them I planned to use my inheritance to start a small investment fund, they laughed. "You? Managing money?" Dad scoffed. "You can barely manage your laundry." Mom added, "Just promise us you won't come crying when it's gone." I promised, and for once, I meant it. I called my new project North Point Capital, a name that sounded bigger than it was. My office was my small apartment, my team was me and my old laptop, and my first investors were 3 friends who believed in me enough to chip in a few $1,000s each. I started small, analyzing undervalued companies, reading every report, and studying late into the night. I wasn't looking for overnight success. I was building something sustainable. For the first few months, my parents barely mentioned it. Then the market dipped, and they couldn't resist. "How's your little hobby going?" Mom asked at dinner one night. "You still playing stock market hero?" Dad chuckled. "Bet you've lost half of it already." I didn't reply. Truthfully, I had lost money. The market was rough, and I was learning the hard way. But every mistake taught me something new. I kept going, adjusting my strategy, moving from risky trades to long-term value investments. Slowly, things turned around. Within a year, I doubled the fund. By year 3, North Point had grown into a legitimate firm managing millions for small clients. I hired analysts, rented an office, and registered officially with the financial board. My parents still thought I was bluffing. "Sure you did," my father said when I mentioned it. "Let's see your big fancy office then." I didn't bother arguing. I knew time would do it for me. Then came the turning point. One of our startup investments, a clean energy company I'd believed in when no one else did, got acquired by a major player. Overnight, our portfolio skyrocketed. News outlets began calling, and suddenly, my tiny fund wasn't so tiny anymore. A few months later, an even bigger surprise came. A venture capital firm approached me about taking North Point public. The day it happened felt surreal. I wore the same $60 suit I'd owned since college and stood in a room filled with journalists and investors. When the bell rang, signaling our public launch, I felt like I was living someone else's dream. Our initial valuation exceeded $300 million, and just like that, the company my parents had called a hobby was now on the national market. The next day, my phone didn't stop ringing. Old friends, former bosses, even my parents. Mom's voice trembled. "Ethan, honey, we saw you on TV." We had no idea. Dad tried to sound casual. "Proud of you, son. Always knew you had it in you." I smiled but didn't correct them. I invited them to dinner that weekend, at a restaurant I'd quietly invested in years before. When they arrived, they looked around, impressed. "This place is amazing," Mom said. I nodded. "It's one of mine." They blinked, unsure if I was joking. When the waiter brought over champagne on the house, Dad asked, "So, what's next for your fund?" I looked at him and said, "Expansion. We're setting up scholarships for students who want to learn finance, people like me who didn't have anyone who believed in them." For once, my parents were speechless. They looked at each other, then back at me. "You really did it," Mom whispered. "You didn't waste it after all." I smiled softly. "No. I invested it, just like Grandpa would have wanted." After they left, I sat alone for a while, thinking about the journey. Success hadn't erased the sting of their doubt, but it had transformed it into something better, quiet confidence. I didn't need to rub it in, the results spoke for themselves. Months later, during an interview, a reporter asked me what motivated me to start North Point. I said, "When people don't believe in you, that's not a setback, it's free fuel." My parents said I wasted my inheritance, but I was never wasting it. I was just planting it in the future. And as the cameras flashed, I thought about that first envelope sliding across the table, and I couldn't help but smile. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's letting success make all the noise for you.